What's up, guys? Today I'm going to set up a skateboard, and yeah, I've been doing this for like 20-25 years, so I just wanted to show you how I do it. It's super simple, super easy. Obviously you're going to want a new deck, unless you're doing it on an old deck, and then a sheet of grip, and a X-Acto blade or some kind of blade, and a skate tool. And that's for my GoPro, you don't need that. Okay, so this is actually, let me talk about the deck I'm gonna set up today. This is a Santai Skateboards deck. Santai is a brand out of Bali, and then also, I believe, out of Switzerland they have a shop. So yeah, a really cool brand, go check them out. Santai, they're on Instagram and YouTube, all that, so local artists, and yeah, really cool decks, and really good shapes and really good quality as well. It's one of my favorite shapes out of all the brands in Bali, so that's why I like to use it. Alrighty, so once you take the plastic off, all you got to do is apply the grip. That's the first step. So if you're using just like a blank sheet of black grip, it really doesn't matter. But if you have some sort of design, obviously you want to make sure it's going to go the right direction. I usually have the right or the front part of the board on the right side. It's just how I do it. If you're left-handed, maybe you want to do it the other way, but left is the bottom or the back, right is the front. So yeah, and then obviously line up the grip tape properly. Sometimes grip tape will have wording that goes like this, so it's really up to you which way you skate. Like if you're a goofy skater, so your right foot is forward, and the wording, you might want to be able to read it, so then you want to put it that way. Like if you're a regular footed skater, maybe you'll want to set up the deck this way, because that's how you're going to be looking at the deck when you ride it. Like you're going to be riding like this. So anyways, if you have like words on the board or some kind of design, you want to just make sure you line it up properly. But I don't have any designs. So there's lots of creative ways to set up grip tape. I'm gonna make some videos in the future about like creative ideas for grip tape setups. Actually, not a bad idea for a skateboard series. But yeah, basically, like some people I've seen them, they just like rip the grip tape and set it up all funky. Some people like, you cut it in half and then put like a line somewhere. Usually depends if there's like some design on the bottom of the deck and you want to fit the grip tape around that design, then that's the way you want to set it up. For me, I really don't give a hoot, because I use these this hardware that's got colors, and this is in particular the Shake Giant Allen 7/8 inch hardware, but it's colored hardware, so when you put it on the front, you'll know by looking at the deck where it's at. So I don't usually have designs on my grip tape. But anyway, so how I set up the grip, everybody does it a little bit differently, but how I set it up, and you want to keep the sheet, because you'll need this later, but just keep it off to the side. How I set up grip tape is I line up my board maybe towards the edge of something, so that I can use that edge as sort of a guide as well, right? And then I look at it directly from above, so I see the top edge of the grip tape at the bottom, and then I use my fingers, my left and my right. See, I'm holding it with like the index and the thumb, and then I have my middle finger off to the side, and I can touch the edge of the board. You can't really see if I'm touching this board, so I can kind of guide it in. And I'm looking at the top, look at the bottom, and sort of right in between. I'm going to set the middle part down first. So I'm setting the middle part down first, and then I kind of lay it out the rest of the way. Because if you touch the edges first, there's a big gap in the middle. So now, as you can see, the grip tape's set, but there's a ton of like these bubbles and stuff all over the place. So what you really want to do is be very gentle. Or you can do it all at once, it really doesn't matter, everybody does it different. Usually when you're setting up grip tape, I recommend setting up mob grip or some kind of perforated grip tape with holes in it so that there's no bubbles, because then the air pockets won't form. Sometimes I use mob, sometimes I just go with whatever the shop provides if they don't have mob, but usually I'll just go with mob if they have it, because it's like super, super grippy and it has perforations. But there's a bunch of other brands that do, and just go with a perforated grip tape. It just makes your life so much easier, because then when you're setting it, you don't really have to worry about air bubbles. They're automatically going to disappear on you as you set it up. You can see whether the grip tape is perforated just by looking at the paper as well. If you look really close there, I don't know if you can see it, but there's little dots, and so that's perforation. It's like a little machine they run through it. They just poke little tiny holes in it, and so it's going to greatly reduce the amount of air bubbles that you have to deal with setting up a skateboard, which makes life so much easier. So once you kind of patted it down by hand, It's kind of optional to do that. I just like to do it, take my time, and I'm making this video right now. So sometimes like I'm in a rush or I just don't really care. I'll just like slap it on there and, you know, whatever. Some people, like when they set up grip tape, they just like to do it sloppy so they get some sort of an artistic feel out of it. You kind of just throw things at it, you know, like art. People would do when they're painting and stuff like that. Another thing people sometimes do is like run their wheel against it. You know, kind of helps to like set it. There's even specific machines I've seen that have it like Zoomies and other skate shops where they like roll it on there, but you know, whatever. Okay, so it's not perfect, but nothing's ever perfect, right? So we're good to go. Now the next step, once you've pushed it on there well enough, is to take either a tool like this or an actual perforated edge tool, but you really just like using a skate tool, or I like to use this little guy, it's a little bit easier, is to I'm trying to make sure this camera films this properly. But make sure you put your finger on this side so it doesn't hurt you, right? Holding it like this. But you rub it against the edge. You might need to do a couple of times just to make sure it gets in there right. But this is really important because this is going to set the edge into the board so it doesn't, you know, peel off as you're skating it, and also it's going to allow you to cut the edge off really easily. I've made the mistake of not doing this step in the past, either just, you know, laziness or forgetfulness, and it really screws up your grip tape. So don't do that. All right, so it's easier just to work kind of with one way if you're right-handed, obviously. Turn the board to match you. You know, pulling technique is always easier than pushing, so make sure you pull towards you. And here comes the, you know, fairly dangerous part, which is because you're using a razor blade. So make sure, you know, however you have the blade set up, sometimes you just have like the blade in hand, but make sure that you don't have it so where you have the possibility of like cutting into yourself, okay? Like I'm gonna pull towards myself right now, but I'm very gentle and I'm very careful with it. And sometimes people do this differently. Sometimes they'll make like a little cut here and it just makes it easier. But once you get a lot of experience, you don't really need that. So what I do is I take the board and I kind of put it past the edge of something I'm working on. And then I, make sure this is filmed right. And then I take the edge and I put it right into that little space right there. And you'll feel it kind of just pressure against the edge of the board and put into that space. And then you see where it pops out. Kind of see that? So boom, it pops out along that edge. And then you just keep consistent pressure along the edge, like this. And you have a really nice clean cut. And then, like I said before, you're pulling the board around to match you. And always a consistent pulling motion. So when you start again, press the blade, you're kind of pressing the blade firmly into the edge, sort of like this, you know? So that way you don't cut into the deck. And you try to make the cut as smooth as possible. Alright, so let's see. It's very fine art going around the edge of a nose or tail without messing it up. But if you just go nice and slow, peel up the corner, get it away from your hand. And that's that. So you do the side, nose or tail, and then you're gonna just consistent pressure. That's all it is. Alright, almost done here. Beautiful. Okay, so now we have a piece of grip here, that grip tape style stuff. And what I usually like to do is I take the two corners here and I stick them together. And then you have sort of like a double-sided piece. And the next step that's really crucial here to making sure your board skates well in the beginning and the edges don't peel up after you start skating it is to rub the edges down. Okay, these edges, if you just sand them down, it's going to help you tremendously when you first start skating your board. Alright, This also helps a lot to not ruin your shoes as badly when you first start. Okay, cool. So now that that's done, this is trash. And you can kind of, you know, knock off the board here. You're gonna see some dust fall off. Sweep that up later if you want. And yeah, you have a perfectly laid out surface. Now again, if you see any like air pockets or air bubbles, you can just kind of use the tape and press that out. Okay, another way to get rid of air bubbles, if you start noticing them, like this grip tape was a little bit bent, so these aren't really air bubbles. But just pretending that was, if it was an air bubble. And there's this is perforated grip tape again. There's like hardly any air bubbles, if any air bubbles, which is why I love it. But let's just pretend that there is an air bubble if you deal with it. And you'll see them, you'll notice them, especially like the first session you skate, you'll notice air bubbles. It just starts popping up. So you take your knife, make sure you lock it, and you just lightly tap it. Just tap it like that all around the air bubble, and then you press through it, and the air will disappear, and you don't fuck up your grip tape. So that's it. All right, cool. So that's done. Next step, take your hardware, and hopefully the hardware came with a little Allen key like this, because this helps a lot. The Allen key that comes with a skate tool, this part isn't long enough to fit through your deck and cut the hole in the grip tape. So if you don't have it, you're gonna have to find the hole in the grip tape. So I'll show you an example of that. So usually I stand the board up, or you know, if I'm sitting down, it's on my lap or something. But I want to kind of get a feel for where the hole is on this side of the board. So I kind of put my finger over it, and then kind of visualizing that, I do a bunch of like little presses. And it's just going to be different areas where you think it might be. Kind of feeling for your finger. Hard to tell sometimes, but eventually, whoops, I'm probably not even filming this properly. There, yep, found it, see? So that's kind of how you have to do it if you don't have that tool. But because I have this tool, oh, and by the way, once you get one, it's a little bit easier to get to the rest, right? Because you can kind of see here, like, this is the distance. So it's probably like somewhere right there. So boom, like the hole's right there. Okay, but since you have this tool, it's really easy, just stick it through like that, and then once you've stuck it through, you'll want to run back through it and kind of rub around the edge, because otherwise the hardware might get stuck in there a little bit. Yeah, so that's how you do that. Some skate shops will have like a little pokey tool that has a pokey end on it. It makes it even easier, because this has a flat end, so it doesn't really help. Just want to make sure you do that with each of these holes, because that's going to help you tremendously with setting up your deck. Alright, so hopefully you got some trucks and wheels and all that. I'll have to make a separate video on setting up your wheels and bearings, because this is not a brand new set of trucks and wheels and bearings. This is a used set of trucks and wheels and bearings. I don't usually like to have brand new sets of wheels and trucks and bearings because it's hard to break them in. It takes a while. I might need to replace the bushings on these. In fact, I definitely need to replace the bushings on these. But yeah, let's actually move this down a little bit. Anyway, regardless, these are old, but just looking at them, I can kind of tell which one's the nose slide, which one's the tail slide, because I do way more tail slides than nose slides usually. And so, you know, whatever it is that you do the most of, you'll be able to see that part is worn out on the trucks the most. All right, so just by seeing that, I can see that this is probably the tail. This is probably the tail, and this is probably the nose. So I'm gonna go with that. If I need to, I will adjust. So no big deal. All right. So that's the first step. You got to figure that out. Close the knife just to be safe. All right. So now we got to put the hardware through. So the easiest way to do it usually is just choose. You know, obviously, if you have colored hardware, you want to put it in a specific place. Do that. If you just have black hardware, just do that. By the way, the reason why I like Allen key hardware so much more than Phillips is because Allen, it's very difficult to strip out. Phillips is very easy to strip out, and so you end up with stripped bolts, and it's very difficult to change your you know, hardware then, which sucks. So yeah, once you get that, just push it through. It doesn't need to be all the way. And then you take your truck, and usually I like to do this on a surface so that I can kind of set it down, but you just aim one bolt in there, and the next, and the next, and the next, and boom. Get it most of the way through. All right. And you take one bolt at a time. I like to put it between these two fingers, and then wrap it around the truck, as you can see there. And then I have the ability to just use my index and thumb and just kind of squeeze it in there. So same thing here, so hold it between your index and middle around that side. Although on this side you'd have to change the board, right? Because well, so I'm going to use my right hand, so same technique here. Sorry if the camera's out of position sometimes. I have this thing on my chest, so it's not exactly where I'm looking at. But it's a little bit closer to the board, which is the idea. So that part isn't necessary when you're doing the back part, but that's when you're doing the front part. It's just easier to do it this way than to like try to aim this way. I mean, whatever works for you. So since I'm right-handed now, I'm going to then need to use the skate tool and the Allen key. And I usually like to set it up this way. For ventures specifically, these are ventures. I usually don't ride ventures, but I'm setting this board up with ventures. Is that, actually, you know what? I should set this one up with my thunders. Yeah, because this is like my street deck, so, and this is even better because then I can show you how to take apart a board in the same video. So if you guys are still watching, yep, that was pretty much the last step. You just have to put the hardware on and tighten the trucks down, and that's it. But if you want to watch me take my trucks off my other board, you can continue watching. I actually made a little mistake here. I'm going to set up my thunders with a different board. So I'll be able to demonstrate, oops, this is again. I'll be able to demonstrate taking apart my other board now for you. If you're curious on how to do that, stay tuned. If not, probably just skip to another video. Alright. This is my board deck. This is a motion skateboards graphic. Let's put fire sticker on it. Dewa Oka, who is a Indonesian skater, professional, extremely talented. You can type his name into YouTube to see some videos. Alright, so when you're taking a board apart, same kind of idea. Oops. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so you're gonna do a opposite of what I was just showing you. So usually I like to put the Allen key in the right hand since I'm right-handed, and then loosen the bolt most of the way with the skate tool. You don't need to take the bolt out right away because you can just take the truck off. And if you're going to use the deck again in the future, you know, then obviously take the bolts out. If you're going to use the hardware again, all that. But if you actually don't plan on that, or if you don't care, you can throw it away, just throw it away. Like, this hardware that I'm taking off right now is extremely rusted because I live out here in Bali, Indonesia, and the air out here is very humid, so the hardware gets rusted so easily. And yeah, it's part of living in paradise. You got to deal with the humidity, tropical air, tropical breeze. By the way, if you guys ever come to Bali, hit me up, or just, you know, go check out my other YouTube videos. I got making a bunch of YouTube videos on Bali skate spots, skate scene in general. So if you're curious, yeah, if you want to take the bolts out, you know, go ahead. I didn't even bother picking that one up. Okay. So these are thunders, you know, and just to really quick do like a comparison, thunders versus ventures. You can kind of see they're a little bit shorter, you know. If I put them on the table, this up a little bit here. Oops, sorry about that. They're a little bit shorter, these thunders and the ventures. I like that. I like that. I don't like tall trucks. Makes it easier to pop. And also because of that, I can ride bigger wheels and have the same distance from the board, which is great because I like bigger wheels for transition. It's easier to lock into coping, and for filming it's really nice to have a bigger, softer wheel. I ride 97s and 99s. All right, cool. So we did one truck there, that's the front. I'm gonna keep it on the right side. You know, you gotta keep track of your stuff when you're doing this. Don't just randomly throw stuff places. Stay organized here as much as you can. Alright. So just taking the hardware off the back truck now. If your hardware gets stuck in the tool like this, just knock it a few times, it'll come out. Yeah, I also like indies. Actually, indies are my favorite, but I left my skateboard in Southern California when I was there last at my friend's house, which is a mistake. I should have taken it with me. I'd still have my indies, but Thunders are actually fantastic as well. So I've been having a lot of fun with Thunders, and yeah, I highly recommend them. Ventures, they just don't quite have the turning capacity. Like, they don't turn as well. So they're great if like most of your skating is just like kind of going straight or lightly turning. So like a lot of street skating is like that, where you're just kind of like mostly going straight at stuff and lightly turning. So if you're that kind of skater, then yeah, that's fine. But Thunders are great because they turn real quick, so you can kind of turn like in a choo 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 like a lightning bolt. Indies, they turn a little bit smoother, so it's like more of an arc. So they're really good for like bowl skating and stuff like that. And a lot of street skaters like them too, especially for like street skating where you got to kind of curve around a corner or something like that. And yeah, I'd guess I'd say that probably the most popular truck out there, the most well sold, and what, you know, the most beloved truck of the industry is the Indie truck. But nowadays there's some really good competitors. There's the Ace trucks and Slappy as well. Very similar design, a little bit different. Slappy in particular, I believe, has an inverted kingpin, which is one of the problems here. See how the kingpin, like this part, is on the bottom? Well, on the Slappies and some of the other models, this part is actually on the top. So you don't deal with this nut here that ends up, you know, locking you up on certain things. Like if you're doing Smith grinds and feeble grinds a lot, you might start hanging up because the grinding goes, okay, the grinding goes this way, right? And so when this part hits a rail or like the edge of a ledge, it'll hang you up sometimes in your, right? So it can, especially on a new truck. So having an inverted kingpin is a really cool feature, and they have those, which is nice. So this is the back truck, this is the front truck. And again, if you get lost, like you don't know which one, just think back to like what type of skating you're doing. Check out the base plates. You know, if you're doing more tail slides and nose slides, or more nose slides and tail slides, your base plate is going to be more grinded down. If you're doing more Smith grinds and feeble grinds, you know, your back truck is going to be more grinded down than your front truck, right? Like I've been doing a lot of front 5.0s lately on the quarter pipes and the bowls. So this one, I can tell that's the front 5.0 spot, because that's where my back truck goes into a 5.0. You know, so anyway, just keep that in mind when you're setting your stuff up. Alright, so let's go ahead and connect this truck now. When it comes to the colors of the hardware, it just depends on like how OCD you are as to like, do you need to set stuff up correctly, or are you just like one of those like really lazy artistic types that likes to set stuff up wrong, so you know, specifically set up wrong, or you just don't give a shit and you throw stuff wherever it happens to land? It's up to you. That's what I love about skateboarding. It's an art form, it's a dance, and it's also like you're a stuntman, you know? So there's so many different types of skateboarding and ways to skateboard and ways to set up a skateboard. There's really no right or wrong way. It's really up to you as to how you want to do it. Now, here's a little tip, is specifically, if you can't get the bolt into a hole, use the skate tool, get it in there, and then you can push the rest of the way, because otherwise with this grip tape being the way it is, it's going to hurt your fingers a lot to have to smash it in there. You're going to cut your knuckle or something, so that's what I like to do anyways. Try to avoid unnecessary pain. I mean, unless you're the type that just likes to like feel pain, then hey, by all means, scrape your fingers up while you're doing stuff. Everybody's different. Everybody's got their own thing they like to do. You know, I try not to judge unless, you know, your character is going to, you know, somehow be, you know, dangerous to me or disrespectful. Then I like to judge. Other than that, I don't judge. Teach his own, and I actually tend to appreciate people when they do something different and unique, especially when it's on purpose, when it's well thought out. It just goes to show, like, attention to detail. The attention to detail is a very, very, very good thing to have in life. Okay, all right, so now we're here. I set up my front and my back truck. When you're doing this, do not ever set up your trucks differently. This is how you should set it up, facing in towards each other. If you do it the wrong way, it's going to turn the wrong way. So this is the proper setup. I guess I should have said that in the beginning. All right. If you ever have a question about how a skateboard should be set up, just look at a skateboard that's already set up and you can get an idea from there. So thunders, you don't need to like mess around with the tool too much, because the way the hanger is, the top part of the truck, it's already set up really easy, so it works with all skate tools. Which is another reason why I tend to not like ventures as much anymore. It's just because it's kind of a pain in the butt to set up and take apart. All right, now as far as tightening them down, you might wonder, like, how hard do I need to tighten them down? Usually I just make it so that the top of the bolt here is flush with the deck. So you don't need to tighten it insanely, but maybe, yeah, to the point where it's like kind of hard to tighten anymore. Some, you know, every board is different. Some boards are going to be a little bit, like, not quite as sturdy. This deck is very sturdy and well made, so it's kind of hard to push this bolt down into it. But kind of get a closer look here. These bolts are pretty flush. You don't want them sticking up because it's going to be like weird, but yeah, that's kind of how you want it done. Alright, let's do the back truck. And little life hack: if you turn both the tools opposite each other, obviously this makes the process go a lot faster. And to tighten it down at the end, use the skate tool instead of the Allen key because it's easier. You have more leverage. Or if you just like making things harder on yourself, by all means. These are life hacks. All about life hacks. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. Working hard is important, don't get me wrong. You gotta work hard enough. But if you work smarter, you'll get a lot further from the same amount of work. All right, so you see this little crease right here? If I can see it, yeah. This is gonna edge out in time, so don't worry too much about it if those things happen. But there we go, guys. Brand new board, all set up, nice and clean, ready to shred. All right, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, comment below. Happy to help. Check out the rest of the videos on the channel, subscribe, and I'll see you out there. Take care. Peace.